be on the lookout for that. So good afternoon, everyone. Well, at least if you're here on the East Coast, that is. I know we got some people in different places. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Luis Valdivieso. I'm with Griffin Consulting, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our latest session in our ongoing webinar series to provide nonprofit organizations the tools they can use to help them be successful. We started this series because we realized many of our nonprofit clients were having similar issues. And given the people and companies we work with on an ongoing basis, we wanted to pull those resources together. Our speaker today, as you can see, is Brittany Saadiq. Thank you, Brittany. We have had the benefit of working with her over the past, I think it's a year now. Um, I think that's where we are.
Yes.
Uh, And in addition to her day job with the Russell Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, she is also serving on the board of directors of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the Atlanta chapter. And I hope I got that correct.
You did.
Excellent. Her expertise is truly unparalleled. And now that I have embarrassed her enough, without further ado, Brittany Saadiq.
Thank you, Louise. It has been a pleasure working with Griffin Consulting over. It has maybe been longer than a year, and so I'm delighted to join you all today, Louise. If you'll give everyone permission to turn their cameras on, I think that'll make it a little bit more fun, more interactive, for us maybe to see each other. For those who are not camera shy, we all should be at a stage where we love being on camera in the pandemic, because we have gotten used to it. It used to be one of my things that I would dread is being on camera, and I'm now warming up to it now. But like Louise shared, I have had a full nonprofit career. I'm a Spelman College alum, located here in Atlanta, Georgia. Also have a certificate from Wake Forest University in nonprofit management, as well as a fundraising certificate from Boston University. I hold my CFRE. So I guess it's essential to say I love the nonprofit sector. I enjoy learning about the different changes and I enjoy this work. So maybe we'll get started with a survey. I'd love to learn a little bit about you all, and I think it'll be a way for us to be a little bit more interactive. I am going to put the link in the chat, and then we'll have an opportunity to kind of review the responses in maybe about 3 minutes. Good morning. I think we had, or afternoon, someone else to join us. We are all working on a 3 question survey that is in the chat. Um, and we'll do that for about another 2, 3 minutes. Sean, thanks for joining. We have a link in the chat for a survey. We'd love for you to share your responses, 3 questions. Okay, answers are coming in. Maybe 1 more minute. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I see a little glitch in my survey, but I wonder did anyone else catch it? Okay, first question. I just wanted to have a better understanding of like who we have with us today, just in terms of maybe what type of portfolio you manage, what you work on day to day. So we have a really good breakdown for those that are present. Um, we have one person that works in corporate and foundation relations or corporate and foundation giving. We have one individual who would who identifies as leading a development um, shop. We have an executive director, and then we have someone who a couple people identify as other. So I'd be really curious on those who identify as other. Do you mind coming off mute? Maybe sharing your name, what state you're from, maybe what city and state, and what type of fundraising do you do on the day-to-day basis? Right, Sean, put it in the chat for us. She says she is from Maryland and she focuses in on grant writing. I think we should have one more that selected other. Maybe we have a duplicate in response. Okay, so we're going to go to the next question. Based on the most current Giving USA report, corporate giving accounts for about 4 to 5% of all giving. And oh, here's our other person. Okay. Um, Seattle, Washington, marketing manager for a small nonprofit. Um, Not quite sophisticated enough for grant writing. I doubt that. Um, okay, so the answer to this question is yes. And let's see what kind of breakdown did we have. We had a good number of yes responses for this, so that's really, really good. And then our last question, blank describes a type of corporate giving. So you all had four possible answers for whatever reason. A little survey glitch. Louise and I were laughing about. I don't often do PowerPoints or things like this anymore, so you can tell. And so I wonder, did anyone catch that they are all correct? They are all correct.
I see
Someone,
how you did this. I see how you did this. It's messed up.
yeah,
Trick
yeah, a
question.
little trickery, on a rainy day in Atlanta. So basically, everyone selected a possible choice with the exception of a matching gift that was triggered by a board member who made an annual board contribution. So that would be, it's a good example. This recently happened. We have one of our board members who works for Equifax, and she made her annual contribution from a donor advised fund that triggered Equifax to give us a matching contribution, and that matching contribution is a corporate gift. Okay. So let's get started with our content today. I hope you guys are excited. And feel free to put questions in the chat throughout. Happy to take them. I think this is going to be part like content, me presenting. Then I'm going to talk through some real case examples of the work that I do every day. And then would love to, take some questions from you all towards the end. Okay, so we'll get started. We're going to rewind back and talk a little bit about giving trends and do they matter? And so one of the questions that was asked initially is, what percentage of all giving, when we think about giving in the US, it accounts for corporate giving? And when I first started reviewing the Giving USA report, and it's a full report, it's pretty extensive. You do have to buy the full report, or you can download the infographic for free annually. It tends to tread around 4 to 5%. And it's been in this particular range for many, many years, probably at least 10, 15 years now. A majority of giving we can see comes from individuals. And then we have another percentage that comes from foundations, and then giving by bequest. So even when you uniquely think about the individual giving bucket that is separated from giving by bequest, as well as giving by foundations, we all know as fundraising professionals that giving by bequest, more oftentimes than not, is going to be an individual, right? And then individuals do have private foundations, so you can really see that majority of giving is coming from individuals. So then you'll ask yourself, well, we're here to talk about corporate giving. It's the lowest. um do these trends really matter for me and my organization? And I'll say yes and no. So for us, we're nothing like this, right? I think our breakdown is reverse of this, 180 degrees reverse. Majority of our contributions are from corporations. Several million dollars a year we raise from corporate partners. And then we have a smaller percentage that comes from individuals, inclusive of our board members, some plan giving and different things that we're working on as well. But it is by far no comparison the amount of corporate giving that we receive as an organization. And so I think that this is good information to be used as a guide within a development department to really think through and guide conversations with your board, to maybe think of newer initiatives. So if you're really heavy in one area, I think it's great to think through how you may can tap into another area, and to maybe use this as to guide that particular conversation and say, hey, like for us, majority of our giving is from corporations, and we can see that this is opposite of Giving USA. We have a huge opportunity that we're leaving money on the table with individuals. So how can we together work through this? How can we begin to fold in and diversify revenue from other buckets, right? So this is how I particularly use the given trend. You have some organizations that will never fully mimic this. Um, and then you have others that will be fairly similar to this. Um, and so just wanted to kind of share that, provide a little bit more context um, on corporate giving. All right. So when we think about why do corporations give, and what's the best way to kind of maximize or engage with donors in different meetings? So it's four different buckets. These are all things I'm sure we know, but we may not necessarily use these particular terms. So the first is ethical, really thinking about a business is saying, hey, I have a responsibility to the community where I'm located. And so, oftentimes with these corporations, you'll see that a large portion of their contributions are made directly in the city where they're headquartered. Political model really is thinking about how do we build relationships, and the ROI that the corporation will get based on the relationships that they've built. So essentially, maybe an opportunity could be an education program for employees. You could do some cause related marketing. And then the stakeholder model really looks at that the corporation has to respond to a variety of needs. So they have all different type of stakeholders, or we may call them constituents, employees, customers, suppliers, community, government. And how do we fulfill the needs of all these different groups of people? And so can potentially maybe think about maybe an employee volunteerism project. And so we know that organizations like the Home Depot, they love like campus beautification projects, and they'll come out and help you plant trees and mow the lawn and different things at your nonprofit headquarters. And then productivity, really thinking about how do we increase profits. So this is really a, I don't want to say a transactional relationship, but they are definitely, motivated to think about what are we going to get in return. If we're helping your nonprofit, we want to either appeal in a certain way or we are looking for some type of return on investment. We want to increase profits. And oftentimes you'll see the most popular models for corporate productivity will be sponsorships, cause related marketing that'll help support that. And then essentially, maybe if you're in a meeting, you can talk about how giving trends and, getting their employees involved in giving can then increase productivity. And then that could be some motivational influences to secure the gift. So, trying to make this as interactive as possible and not me just talking at you guys. Have you all found any other things that have worked for you outside of, maybe these four buckets when you're in meetings with a corporate prospect? Would love for someone to come off mute and maybe share, what bucket they traditionally fall in when you're in your donor meetings. I think you guys should be able to come off mute.
Yeah, everybody should be everybody should be able to come off mute if they can. They feel comfortable doing so.
Yep,
Um, I know I
this
work
is
with a couple of nonprofits. I'm on the board of one and help start the Black Channel Partner Alliance, and um, with I'm on the one Center for Watershed Protection, where we go out and get some of the corporate productivity, below if I could say that. Um, and then the other one we do a lot. We have, so both of mine are pretty much the corporate productivity model, um, where they'll either help to increase their profits through sponsorships or guide customers or people along that way. So
absolutely. I would definitely say majority of hours also fall within corporate productivity or the ethical model where corporations feel they have a social responsibility to the greater community and they are getting involved with the work of nonprofits based on that. So we're going to transition to talk a little bit about um, the organization I work for currently that I've been employed for the past 2 years come December. So I serve as our director of development for the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurs. We're a newer nonprofit that focus on addressing wealth disparity and economic mobility through the power of entrepreneurship. We have a program, so like a cohort or accelerator style program that entrepreneurs are able to participate in. We provide one on one coaching or technical assistance, as well as connections to other resources. Say, for instance, maybe connecting them to a CDFI who can make small startup loans, connecting them to Invest Atlanta, which is the economic mobility arm of the city of Atlanta. So, just thinking how we connect them to other relationships that can help grow and scale their business. And then we have a 54,000 square foot building that also serves as a co working and meeting space. So entrepreneurs are able to come to our headquarters, work, take meetings, etc. So that's a little bit about who we are and um, our mission. Okay. So I joined in December of 2020, and I recall sitting down with our CEO and interviewing for the opportunity, and he shared, we're in the middle of a capital campaign." And I said, "Okay." Um, and my mind initially thought capital campaign must be a lot of, foundation giving, individual giving, the historical gifts that you'll see in a capital campaign. Boy, was I wrong. And so I want to talk a little bit about each of these buckets and how we utilize these, how we utilize certain methods um, for our capital campaign. And so I'm going to walk you through a couple examples. So in my mind, and maybe I was a little naive to think that a capital campaign, like I said, was majority individual donations, foundations. You would expect to see some corporate gifts in there, but definitely not once again majority corporate gifts. So we launched a capital campaign in 2019, a year before I started, and we're right at the end of wrapping it up. As shared before, we have a 54,000 square foot building that we're renovating. So we're trying to outfit it for entrepreneurs and make it, very convenient in terms of meeting spaces. We're going to do a rooftop deck, other, projects along the way. And so, one thing that we do well and that I do in my everyday work is multi year pledges. And so, say for instance, if we have an opportunity to have a conversation with Home Depot headquartered in Atlanta, we traditionally approach donors looking for 6 and 7 figure contributions. Being a newer organization, a team of about 15, we traditionally are looking at Louise says, wow, because initially the work was being done by our CEO. He was our only fundraiser. Then they hired me. So, we didn't really have time to start at that lower end of the pyramid that we know we're supposed to start at with those annual gifts and then work our way up to the more significant gifts. We kind of flip that on its head. And so we're often in conversations for 6 and 7 figure transactions. So the way we put those together are multi-year. So we may approach someone and say, you know, with an opportunity for a $500,000 gift over 3 years. So that's the first modern strategy I want us to really kind of think through and talk more about. It's another organization here in Atlanta, Westside Future Fund, not too far from us. This is a strategy they've had. A lot of success. So for all the success that we've had, you can probably multiply that by 2 or 3. And it really is that same approach, multi-year pledges. When we're in front of a donor, how do we, being a newer organization, vision cast? How do we get you excited about our mission? How do we share some early successes, early wins? And then also talk about the importance of what we're creating and what we're building, and recognizing that we're going to need a little bit of runway to be able to do that. So that's really the purpose of securing these multi-year pledges is you don't have to go back every year, trying to have another conversation, trying to get these grants in every year, potentially maybe missing their fiscal year window. And so it gets a little tricky, especially when you're a smaller organization in a smaller shop, to just be in front of a donor every single year asking them to renew. So we approach it multi-year. One as. So before I came to the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurs, I had an opportunity to work for two of our largest healthcare nonprofit organizations in the US, American Heart Association, American Cancer Society. Big organizations are notorious for the one ass. So when working there, when I first started my career at American Cancer Society years ago, now I started on the event side. And we know that that's where corporations traditionally have lived with through event sponsorship. So I started on the event side, managing an old event, Relay for Life, and so at American Cancer Society at that particular point, we had like market directors, people that would be in charge of several counties, maybe potentially the full state of Georgia. And so the market directors would go to, let's say, a Delta and present them with a one as instead of saying sponsor the Fulton County, Gwinnett County, and Cobb County Relay for Life, and you have all these different development managers that's building relationships with CSR people to try to get a $35,000 or maybe a $50,000 presenting sponsorship opportunity for one event. American Cancer Society approaches it through a one as. So when they have an opportunity to engage an executive at Delta Airline, that opportunity is for Delta to sponsor a certain number of events within that particular market. So you'll see it tier down. So your larger events, Delta Airline would be the presenting sponsor of those events. And then some of the smaller ones, they may come in at a lesser level. And actually, it would go beyond the Relay for Life event. It would go to the Hope Ball and also the breast cancer walk. So really taking advantage of, once again, if you have an opportunity to get a meeting with a decision maker, how can you capitalize on that? You may have had a gala for maybe 20 years within your organization, and you've been thinking through, how can I, increase the giving? How can I increase giving for this gala? Giving sometimes can get a little stagnant with events. So maybe you have a board chair who's very, very passionate about starting another event, a new an inaugural event. We know how board members are so passionate about their events. And so maybe you have an opportunity of a golf tournament that's on the table, that you guys are planning, that'll be a new event. So when you go in front of your presenting sponsor for your gala, let's say it's $50,000, and your presenting sponsorship level for your golf tournament is going to be $15,000. Why not present to that law firm or whatever type of corporate partner that one has? For 65,000, we'd like you to be the presenting sponsor of our inaugural event, as well as continued sponsor of our gala. And so the one ask is very, very useful. Also, another way people utilize the one ask on the corporate side is when you're engaging an executive within a company, and you're having conversations. Naturally, that person has influence over the decision to make that corporate gift, but you can also engage them for a personal gift as well. So that can be considered that one ask, and, killing two birds with one stone. That's one we have yet to try at the Russell Center. I'm excited to begin to think through how we weave that into our fundraising plan for 2023, because we do often have an opportunity to have conversations with some higher level executives. And so, can they give us gifts of stock? Can they give us gifts of cash that we would count as an individual donation, in addition to um, the corporate contribution that they have influence over? The next thing we do is in kind contributions. So I know a lot of times we think about, oh my goodness, someone's coming over here to dump some stuff off at our nonprofit, and we don't want any of this stuff. We we can't use these old computers. We don't have any use for these types of in-kind goods. Uniquely, what we do a lot of is in-kind services. So one example is of a law firm here in Atlanta who we have a multi-year pledge agreement with for a cash contribution and in-kind services. So they provide pro bono support to the entrepreneurs. Last year, they provided 800 hours of pro bono support to the entrepreneurs. So just being available in terms of teaching different legal structures around entity formation of a business, and then making themselves available for one-on-one consultations with businesses. So really thinking through how you can maximize on in-kind contributions. Sometimes corporations will want to get involved and test the waters with the in-kind contribution versus cash, or you can sometimes add both in. And so we do a lot of that. And then also matching gifts. Matching gifts is a huge opportunity that I feel sometimes we overlook. If we have our donation page live on our website, it's great to give people an opportunity to match gifts that particular way. But then also thinking through, like the example with a board member. If you have board members who work for companies that do matching gifts, making them aware of that, helping them familiarize themselves with the process, and so that you can capitalize on that matching gift as well as that annual board gift, to help increase overall giving. Okay, complex corporate transactions. So my mind initially would always think planned giving transactions are so complex, right? Especially if you may have never been a financial planner or, worked as an attorney before. It was one area of giving that I always knew could be complex. Uniquely, corporate transactions can get to be complex. So when we think about modern strategies, how we're going to shake some things up, do some things differently in 2023 beyond the event sponsorship opportunities that we often always see, it can get complex. So this is a real example of a relationship I worked on alongside our CEO, our COO, an attorney, um, our accounting firm, several, the corporation being UPS here in Atlanta, as well as some subsidiaries of UPS. So, UPS Store, um, Where to Go, which is their logistics management software, as well as the UPS Foundation. So, dealing with several business entities to get to one place of yes overall. So, when this relationship first started, and I think it predated me, we were just engaged in conversations. We were just thinking through, once again, this is a target on our prospect list, let's have some conversation, around them just making a traditional gift from the foundation, or maybe we'll try to see if we can secure it from the marketing or sponsorship department. The gift ended up morphing into something that was quite complex. And so, with the 54,000 square foot building that we're headquartered in, it morphed into us creating a space where we would have a mini UPS store, if you will. So in the front of it is 5,000 square feet. Was an add-on to the building. You can walk in and you'll be able to ship and receive packages to entrepreneurs we support. And then the back end will be like a small fulfillment center for pick, pack, and shipping services. And we wanted to start small with just 10 entrepreneurs who had a decent volume in terms of um, product, like have pregnancy brain, have a decent number of product, but weren't too big where they would need to be in a full warehouse. So 10 entrepreneurs could take advantage of the pick, pack, and ship services. And that's overseen by the Where to Go technology. And then, like I said, you have the front of it where you can come in and ship a package, receive a package. So think alike of a UPS store, and then naturally want to increase readiness, talk about assets. When you think about a company growing and just some pain points they may have, let's say for instance, if Walmart approach a company or Target and say, hey, we want to offer you national distribution to be in all Target stores, where oftentimes smaller or medium-sized businesses will run into some logistics issues, especially if they're making products overseas. So, thinking through how can we utilize the strength of UPS to provide coaching and trainings to entrepreneurs and to help increase awareness around supply chain. So, you can see on the slide what we were able to work out together: a $1.5 million pledge over 3 years. That includes the full transition of the space. So they took on all the construction cost to transition the space. It included a gift from the marketing side of the business, as well as a financial cash gift from the foundation. And so, what made this so complex is you have licensing that was given for the UPS store, you have complimentary licensing and usage of the Where to Go technology that was gifted in kind, the construction of the build out of the space that was a gift in kind. And then you're managing the cash of the foundation, and the foundation is a nonprofit organization. So it's certain parameters of how you can spend the money. And then you have the cash contribution from the marketing side of UPS headquarters. And so all these things came together and naturally when you think about working with a company this size and the legal team they have to draft a gift agreement, and then you think, well, what in the world am I supposed to do with it? And so corporate contributions can get quite complex, but I want to share that with, just saying be bold, don't be afraid. Make sure you have a good working relationship with your attorney, or if you are from a smaller nonprofit and may not have a staff attorney or a staff accountant, just making sure that, whatever firm you guys use for your accounting, that you're in direct communication with them when you have these pretty complex corporate or, like I said, planned gift agreements. Just a change in contribution versus sponsorship lingo really can prompt different things for your audit. So just, working with your accounting team and they'll have those insights to be able to guide you there. And then also working with a legal team to make sure that what the corporation is presenting to you and how they're thinking through how to protect themselves, that you too and your organization is also well represented, and you go back and forth with some negotiations. We went back and forth a few times with recommendations from our attorney, just in terms of insurance and different things we need to carry for the space. And it went back and forth to their legal team before we arrived on a formal agreement, signed it. Then, you began construction, and we more recently revealed the space and did yeah, I guess like a unveiling and a little mini party, a ribbon cutting is what we're calling it now. Uh, um, I'm trying to avoid the pregnancy brain, but it's popping in and out. And so yeah, so this is one real life case study that took a lot. It was a lot of corralling. It was a lot of socializing a proposal. You first put together a formal proposal and say, hey, here's what we're asking for. And I think what made this, and I have a slide to talk about this later on, but what made this really possible was a champion. When you're approaching transactions of this size, every transaction we have that's 6 or 7 figures, we have an inside champion. We have someone that is taking that proposal and saying, I believe in them. I believe in the work that they're doing. Let me tell you about X. You have to come here and see it for yourself. You have to get involved in this. Will you join us? And having that inside champion made all the difference. It was one particular executive. She would take the proposal to UPS Foundation and said, Nikki, you got to come down from DC. The foundation president, you have to see this place for yourself. I want you to see it. Oh, let me take it to the CMO of UPS. I want to invite him, and so it took a lot of socializing the proposal. It was not a let's gather on a call and sketch it out, come over for a tour, and then, we landed on something. I would say at least probably 10 tours, inclusive of us hosting a few of their C suites. Just they said, hey, we want to just have a meeting there. Okay. We traditionally charge for meeting space for, to host a meeting, but okay, sure, complimentary. How can we introduce you to an entrepreneur, that can provide the catering while you're here for lunch? So really thinking how we could delight them and get them in the space as much as possible. So complex corporate transactions, they do exist. All right. A more easy example that we often think of, that I had an opportunity to wrap up. Recently, we hosted an inaugural Innovation Golf Classic. So, uniquely, we are not an event based department. All of our gifts traditionally have been major. I would consider us a major donor organization. But we had some interest from our board chair who wanted to host the golf tournament. He is in the corporate business himself, has a lot of corporate contacts, really, really passionate about hosting a golf tournament. Starting my career in events, I was not the most excited about it because we know events take so much work and we spend so much money, and we could be working with, another donor who could just write us a check for that. But I also thought about us being a newer organization, and it was a huge opportunity for marketing to get our name out there. I then also thought about, well, if we're traditionally approaching, people or organizations that can give 100 plus thousand dollars, it's a lot of money once again being left on the table that we just uniquely haven't had the staffing to capitalize on that. So this will give us the opportunity to kind of step down, have a place for people who may can only give $5,000 or $10,000. So we launched our Innovation Golf Classic, and I put some results up here for you because I know how fundraisers, we love results. The cost to raise $1 was 41 cents, higher than I wanted it. I wanted it at 35 cents. And I tried to drill that in my board chair's head that we needed to be at 35 cents for every dollar raised. If we were going to make this an annual thing, we'll make it an annual thing because we were really close. Um, and you can see how much we raised gross, and you can see the portion of that that was secured in corporate sponsorship. So we did have some foursomes opportunities available, but most of the dollars raised were through sponsorships. We didn't add on any additional elements for the inaugural event like a raffle or a silent auction. So it's a lot of opportunity, and we're excited to continue this event because of those particular given areas that we can add in to make it a little bit more profitable. And so, what I've learned from events, from working with really large organizations, is first, you have to start how you want to finish. Too often, I've seen nonprofits start an event and say, well, this is our inaugural event, our presenting sponsorship is going to be $5,000. Then you get this huge response. Everyone wants to come. And then you start thinking through maybe 10 years later or 5 years down the road, how do I increase? How can I make more money? And so then you're left with, I need to increase my sponsorships. um, we always said when we were at American Cancer Society, start how you want to finish. Start high. So the presenting sponsorship opportunity for inaugural event was $50,000. And I positioned it for 50 for several reasons. We played at a very exclusive club in Atlanta, one that many people don't have access to, Piedmont Driving Club. So just that exclusivity alone, based on conversations with our board, warranted a certain price point for the event. And then like I said, I didn't want to be in the business, if we're going to make this an inaugural thing, that every year I'm trying to figure out, how do I scale up? How do I go up? The sponsorship started at 50,000, the lowest level was 5,000, and foursomes were 2,500. And so I received a lot of questions because people would say, well, it's not accessible. Well, it's a fundraiser. Fundraiser goal is to make money, and it may not be the most accessible thing sometimes. And we gave out some complimentary foursomes naturally, but I think just keeping in mind that this is a fundraiser and the goal is to raise money. And when you're working on an event, it's taking time from something else you could be doing, whether you're stewarding donors, whether you're working with a major donor that could easily write you $100,000 check. So you have to think about how you're going to make money. And then oftentimes with events, your guests want to be delighted. We were providing a premium bar. Everyone received a golf bag. You receive these prizes at golf tournaments. So, to be able to delight people, to provide a certain level of experience does cost money. So we naturally need to have a price point that's sufficient for that. Okay. We're transitioning. Relationships is where it starts. So we talked about um, UPS. We talked about our champion there. Um, this is work we're all doing every single day. Who does your board know? Who does your CEO know? How can they help us warm up a lead? We're in charge of researching, prospecting, coming up with a list of potential donors, yes. But how are we working through people? How are we making sure that when our CEO or even we are out at a Rotary luncheon or a Kiwanis meeting or any civic organizations that you all participate in your city, how are we making sure, at least for me, that my CEO and my board chair sees these as opportunities, right? We work together. They can fire me, yes. They often will tell people that I'm their boss because they are social butterflies. So they will go to a Metro Atlanta Chamber board meeting and talk to all their friends. And I'm like, this is a huge opportunity for us. So I need us to stay focused, you know. And so thinking through how you build that really strong partnership with the executives within your organization and your board and how you work through them, how you utilize your board, like I said, to warm leads up. We've done some things with some of our board members who may host something in their home, like a private meeting for 10, 15 donors. So, how do you utilize them to steward your donors as well as maybe? Um, a creative thing one of our board members did for another organization is she brought people over to her home for some refreshments. They rented a van and then they went and all the donors together rode in the van together to tour the nonprofit, like a behind the scenes exclusive type of tour. So once you really develop good relationships with your board, you can really lean into their network, their assets, and let that strengthen the work that you're doing, and then building multi-layered relationships to ensure that you have continuity there. And so what happens if the CEO of your organization and maybe a CEO of another organization, they have this great relationship? Either one could leave at any given moment, and then you never really inserted yourself in that relationship, and so you don't really have that rapport built. So making sure you think through, how do you have a multi-layered relationship? So our relationship with UPS, since we've used that example, includes a main relationship manager on their side. This is the executive that took the proposal around, really socialized it. She's on the VP level. Her and I have a great relationship. We can text, we can call each other impromptu. We'll always answer. Whereas the CEO, my CEO, more so will work in parallel with their CMO or the president of the foundation, people that are more so on his level. So we have a very multi-layered relationship. We've invited our board in, so they also have some relationships with UPS. So if anything were to happen, once these 3 years are up, we naturally want to think through, what else can we do together? So I have one more slide, then questions. The next one, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about inclusion, diversity, equity, access, and how it's all of our responsibility. Oftentimes, we are serving clients who may be from marginalized communities. It's our opportunity to advocate for them. It's our opportunity to make sure we're sharing their stories with their permission, but then also to think about, how does inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, how is it influencing giving in the last 2 to 3 years? So many federal grants, SBA, Department of Commerce, when they release RFPs, you have to have an equity component. It's part of the scoring rubric to receive these federal grants. You have a lot of private foundations or institutional donors that are shifting. If you didn't watch the president of Ford Foundation, Darren Walker, do his 60-minute interview on 60 Minutes, watch it. It is phenomenal. And he talks a lot about equity and our importance. And um, through the board I serve on, our community foundation in Atlanta, the board president was a speaker, and he said they're really focusing in on helping their donors to understand that you benefited from a system that sometimes everyone didn't have access to. So really, how do we help our donors understand? How do we advocate for our clients? But how we also are prepared to answer these questions. Say, for instance, if we're applying on target.com, when they ask us what percentage of our board is diverse, our leadership team, um, how many people are we serving from low to moderate income. And so being prepared and utilizing your influence with your executive team to make sure that you have an overall strategy um, in preparation for inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. So that's the end. We were all over the place, all over the map. I'm going to stop sharing and you all can come on camera if you like. You can put questions in the chat. I love to take a few minutes to answer any questions that you all may have. If it's about a specific example that I can elaborate on, please let me know.
Excellent. Thank you, Brittany. I want to start off with a question that I had. Um, how do you find these board members? Because it seems like, half the battle is finding a board member and their connections.
It is.
How do you sort that?
It's a true talent and utilizing your board to find other board members, doing different exercises with them. Once again, understanding who they know, who they feel may could be good for the board, understanding gaps. When you have 3, 5, maybe 10 board members, you can look at them and make decisions on, oh, okay, so this person's good here, this person is good there. We kind of need someone, maybe more of a community champion. Maybe we need someone more from the corporate community. So really taking an inventory of who you currently have on the board and utilizing their network to share with people the awesome work that they're doing and why others should join.
Excellent, excellent. And I really like that example you did about the fundraiser that some people felt excluded. You're like, hey, it's a fundraiser.
It's a fundraiser and we're here to make money. We're raising money for a great cause and we don't have to apologize for that and being comfortable there.
Right. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I also like the really, the multi-year uh plan. That was really good. We've helped one of our clients that we helped did something similar where they're looking at and they have to track those 3-year kind of grants and programs. And so yeah, I like that idea versus going to the well every year or so.
Absolutely. So it's definitely something worth trying. Um, any questions from anyone else? Anything else I can share or answer for you all? You all have been great and a quiet audience today, but we're so thankful that you joined and hopefully learned something
You know,
hopefully you're excited about trying something new for 2023.
excellent. Excellent. Well, any questions? All right, with that, we'll wrap it up. I just want to say again, thank you, Brittany, for your insights. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. And if anybody would like to follow up with Brittany for additional questions, you can reach out to her in the chat.
I will put
Um,
my email in the chat for you.
excellent. Um, for just a couple last things, just to close out. For any nonprofit out there, they should be taking advantage of the Microsoft donations of Dynamics. It can help with some of that contact and maintaining contact with some of those donors. So we should definitely be taking advantage of that. And so for anybody out there who's interested in how that works and how you can use Dynamics installed that you can use that's donated to you by Microsoft. If you reach out, we at Griffin will help you set it up for free at no additional cost. Most of you should have my email, but just in case, I'll put it in the chat. And then the last thing before I let you go, the very, very last thing is I'm also going to put in the chat is, as I said, this is our webinar series. So we will do another one next month, December 7th. We're going to have a gentleman, Michael Wolk. He's going to be talking with a couple of nonprofits about the challenges that they have and how they're navigating them. Again, as I said at the very beginning, our goal, because of our what Griffin does, our goal is to bring together our nonprofits that are in our wheelhouse that can talk to each other and have a chance to see what other people are doing to be successful. And like I said, I'm gonna put the team. I'll put the link for our next chat. our next webinar. It's in the chat, and I also do my email address. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. And since it's almost here, have a great Thanksgiving. I'll talk to everybody later.